worst arc in the series is what I like to call the emo arc, or angsty teenagers arc, if you will. In the aftermath of the trial, Connie is mad that Steven gave himself up instead of fighting alongside her and the others, but it's really mostly about her. I get what they were going for, and it could have been executed well, but it just comes off as angsty and melodramatic of the tail end of one of the craziest stretches of episodes ever. Lars dies, and now I'm supposed to care about Connie being mad? And her taking Lion is actually messed up if you think about it, because Lion is the only thing that allows communication between Lars and Earth. There is 2 episodes featuring Lapis and Peridot in between all the teenage angst, and I actually like them because it develops 2 of my favorite characters, with Lapis fleeing due to her PTSD, and Peridot dealing with the breakup. But then you go back to Connie and Steven going through what already basically happened in full disclosure in the beginning of season 2, but way worse. And fucking Kevin is part of it for whatever reason. It's just an annoying couple of episodes to watch. The second invasion is such a step down from the original one at the end of season 1. It has probably the lowest quality to importance ratio in the whole series. The first episode could have been mistaken for filler. The second one is a Lars episode, which again isn't relevant until the last 10 seconds. The finale is finally a good episode, and Steven's sacrifice is very impactful and shows his maturity and growth as a character, but it's literally the last minute or so of the entire arc. Aquamarine and Topaz are decent antagonists, but even they get more interesting and more complex in the next arc. So yeah, overall, it's a real disappointment. What I like to call the Lars in Space arc takes place immediately after the emo arc, as Steven has now Lion and can travel to see Lars. It consists of Lars of the Stars, Jungle Moon, and Your Mother and Mine. All 3 episodes taking place either on Lars' ship or on the Jungle Moon. First of all, we are reintroduced to Lars, who is now a cool badass freedom fighter going against the Empire alongside the Off-Colors, which is a pretty awesome development. Then we get his old self peeking out when he's faced with the realization that Sadie has already moved on, doing her own thing, just for him to pull himself back together, get over it, and save the crew from Emerald's claws. And this leads directly into Jungle Moon, where Stevonnie gets stranded on an alien moon and needs to learn to fight off weird life forms and even kill in order to survive, with the end of the episode giving us a glimpse of Pink Diamond and Yellow Diamond's past and relationship. And the last episode centers around Garnet spreading the gospel of our Lord and Savior, Rose Quartz, to the Off-Colors. It's honestly a great arc and a giant improvement from the other 2 I talked about, but it is just quite not long enough or has enough episodes to stand out as one of the better ones. It's just a decent one. The finale of Steven Universe is very controversial, but I actually think that it was pretty good up until the last 10 minutes maybe. So this whole arc from episode 24 until the finale is pretty good to me. We get White Diamond's first appearance after years of build-up. Familiar is a great episode and song that explores Rose's past and how connected and similar yet different she is to Steven. Escapism is a little weird, but it's like the calm before the storm, and the song is very great. I really love it actually. And then there's the finale, which has everyone fighting the giant mech, new designs, new fusions, fucking Obsidian finally showing up, and it was going so well until the last 10 minutes, like I said earlier, with that weak-ass confrontation with White. The thing that I don't like is specifically the way they defeat her. I wish they just beat her in combat and then forced her to accept reality or imprison her for her crimes or something like that. Them all just standing together in a pool or whatever that was at the end of the show just feels very weird and forced. Maybe if it was like more build up or something, I would like it more, but within like 5 minutes for all of that, it was just so much and it was jarring. But overall, it was a good arc, even though I really didn't like the ending that much. All of Future is an arc, and it's about Steven descending into madness and getting more and more unhinged. Some people dislike Future, but I think it's actually pretty alright. There's some really good episodes in there. Like, the first 4 episodes of the show are honestly great. And yeah, there's like 4 episodes that I don't like, but overall the show is decent. Sometimes it's great. So like, I don't know, the hate for it is just crazy to me, because I don't think it deserves it. But then again, I don't think the original show deserves the hate either. The Zoo arc is one of the only ones where everyone collectively agrees with its name and the fact that it is in fact an arc. This is one of the wildest things in the show. A human fucking zoo. And it's full of baddies actually. Like, only bad bitches are allowed in this place. And also Greg and Steven. But the rest are baddies. Maybe I'm just horny when recording this, but these motherfuckers are all in semi-dresses, looking like the girl from Search for El Dorado, with their legs out like that? Sheesh! But anyway, what about the Amethysts? Well, they're also bad bitches, let's go! Okay, that's it. Enough horny for one arc. We're introduced to Blue Diamond and her Pearl, who are also bad. Okay, sorry. No, please, no, please. We're introduced to Blue, and we get Yellow, and we get her to sing a song, and Pearl getting back at Blue Agate for treating her as a slave, and we even get the B team of Crystal Gems having a small adventure. And I know a lot of people hate on this episode, but I actually really like it because I love Lapis, I love Peridot, I like Connie, so seeing them trying to be Crystal Gems is awesome, and fuck you haters. Also, to give a little bit of analysis, I think it's wonderful in a weird way how we get exemplified the rigid hierarchy that exists within the Empire in this arc. I remember watching the trial because I got into the show right before season 5 started, and I was just loving it. And to this day, I still agree. The mystery of who shattered Pink was such a big thing, and I was so sure Yellow must have had something to do with it. She was just acting so suspiciously. I was actually locked in. It starts so much better than the arc that just came before it, with some characterization for Topaz and Aquamarine, compared to the second invasion where they just played the stoic and the sassy little shit roles. And Lars starts getting developed for the first time, it seems. Like, he's actually reflective and introspective about himself. An introduction of the off-colors is also awesome. Seeing these misfits hide in order to not be shattered just because they are a little bit different shows that the Crystal Gems aren't alone. And again, it shows the hardcore hierarchy and quasi-fascistic aspect of the Gem Empire. And it fits so well with Lars's character, who was always trying to fit in but never managed. Lars dying and turning pink has implications for Lion that I would have never even guessed before. And I like that they didn't spell it out for you. Like, yeah, they imply it very, very, very heavily, but believe me, that's more trusting of its audience than a lot of shows. I also love how Lars turns pink, so he's officially an off-color, not only because he's a misfit, but because he's literally off-color. And him sacrificing himself is also something I never thought would have happened, and it's great development. It's such a shame that we never got that spin-off that I think was considered, but I guess who knows, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. Maybe it was never even a thing to begin with. I call this the Jasper arc because she's the biggest common denominator, but this is just as much, if not more, about Amethyst and her inferiority complex towards Jasper, as she's a perfect warrior while Amethyst herself is overcooked, small, and relatively weak. But just as much, we explore Jasper's inferiority towards Fusion, and her dependency and addiction to Malachite. The power Fusion gave her, and her toxic relationship with Lapis, changed her perspective completely on the whole concept of fusion. And not only does she get rejected by Lapis, but she loses to Stevani, she loses to Smoky Quartz, who is a fusion of two people she finds inferior, and her downfall comes out of being corrupted by a gem she tried to force into a fusion. In between all of that, we have Steven and Amethyst going at it, and also there's the Bismuth special, which is also a just great episode. The Lapis arc in my head is different from what most people think. People think about the two Lapis episodes and maybe the Greg Aftermath episodes. I think the arc starts with Monster Bodies and ends with Space Race. Monster Bodies sets up Steven's sympathy and ability to form relationships with Homeworld gems, while an indirect kiss establishes his healing powers. House Guest is literally a continuation from Ocean Gem and also connects back to an indirect kiss through the healing plotline. And finally, Space Race not only connects back to House Guest, but it's a direct consequence of the Lapis two-parter. So now that I justified why it's all one arc, I want to say that I love it. It starts out with a more sympathetic view of the first monster we ever see in the series. And I love when shows or movies introduce something that you never question or think about, and then proceed to show how much more complicated that one thing is. And an indirect kiss makes me emotional every time I watch it. Just seeing Steven in the arms of his mom's statue and her reaching out to him while he's drowning, I don't know, I can't explain it, but since I've seen it as a kid, it made me feel emotions. The Greg episode is a little bit annoying, but that's like the most annoying his character gets, and it has a wholesome ending, while Space Race absolutely destroys our conception of Pearl and gives us a glimpse into how complicated and sad she is as a character. And finally, Mirror Gem and Ocean Gem are great. It's the first time we question the morality of the gems, the first time we see an enemy so powerful, and the first time the homeworld and the possibility of a greater threat is brought up. Lapis is awesome. Her story, being so tragic, makes her trust in Steven even more impactful, and I just love this arc. You could argue this arc started with the introduction of Peridot, but there's just so many unrelated episodes in between that episode and the message that I decided to start there and go up to maybe Joyride, but definitely Full Disclosure. Anyway, this arc is awesome. We start with the message from Lapis, and we continue to build towards the unknown force that is only implied. We know they're stronger and more advanced, but we have no scope of the actual discrepancy between the crystal gems and those homeworld gems. I even like the Mayor Dewey episode, and how his situation with Beach City parallels with the Gem's relationship with Steven. And as an epilogue, Full Disclosure and Joyride give us perfect insight about Steven's mindset, how he feels it might be too dangerous for Connie to be friends with him, and how the Gems might consider him responsible for Rose not being around, and the toll all of this responsibility is putting on him. And all of this without even mentioning the most important part of it all, the arrival of the Homeworld Gems, and Steven's almost sacrifice to return and help, and all of that just for Jasper to absolutely eradicate them anyway. And of course, Jailbreak is one of the most well-known and loved episodes of the series. It builds to the reveal that Garnet was a fusion all along, and ends with Garnet and Jasper having the best fight scene in the series, while Garnet sings one of the best songs in the series. And it all ends with the opposite of what Garnet embodies as a fusion: Malachite. A toxic, unhealthy relationship of two gems who want to fuse but for completely different reasons. Yo guys, this is where the gay happens. This is so sad. I'm canceling my Disney Plus subscription. Can't go back, more like, Lapis, please marry me, I beg you. I'm on my knees in Walmart right now. Call me Jasper, cause I'll let you abuse me, please. I'm sorry. I love her song in this episode. It reflects her character so well, and I love that we get this one more moment to exemplify her fear of Homeworld. And bro, when she returns and reunited and looks all cool and shit, and she drops the barn on Blue's ass, and then Blue tries to use her powers on her and she brushes it off, she is literally the coldest character in the series. No question in my mind. Of course, there is the Pink Diamond twist that recontextualizes Pearl, Rose, the war, Bismuth, and basically everything else in the series. But I already made a video about A Single Pair Rose, so just watch that to get a more in-depth analysis. And Jesus Christ, this arc has so much stuff in it, because the reveal results into Ruby and Sapphire breaking up for another few episodes, where we are revealed the whole truth about Rose. Then Amethyst tries to take some of the weight off Steven's shoulders, becoming the most mature crystal gem, which is an insane development, by the way. And somehow Ruby becomes a cowboy. All of that, and Ruby and Sapphire get married. Bismuth comes back to attend the wedding, and after that, the party gets invaded by the Diamonds. Cluster shows up, and they all fight, and it's actually insane how much happened in this fucking arc. Let's get this out of the way. Rising Tides, Crashing Skies is the best Ronaldo episode. But also, it's the only episode in this stretch that has nothing to do with the arc, so I'm gonna ignore it. In this arc, the main subject is fusion, and what it means to different characters. To Garnet is a loving relationship, built on trust. Amethyst and Pearl use it as a way to combat their inferiority complexes. Lapis and Jasper are in an abusive relationship. Greg and Rose never fuse, but they also did. And for Steven and Connie, Stevonnie is a representation of their friendship, their innocence, puberty if you want, and dare I say, their romantic relationship a little bit. The first 3 episodes are about each of the gems. Garnet explains her relationship, Amethyst has self-worth and body image problems, and Pearl struggles with her attachment to Rose and their relationship, so she projects it onto Steven and Connie. Then the next 3 are setting up the importance of fusion. We see how much the gem hybrid experiments affect Garnet psychologically. Then we see the relationship of Rose and Greg, and how they achieve the ultimate connection without even fusing. And finally, Chile Tid is about Steven's mental powers and dreams at first, but then we get a glimpse into the torture and torment Lapis and Jasper go through in order to keep their fusion together and fight over who has control over it. And then the final 5 episodes are a full-on serialized arc about how Pearl, lying to Garnet so they can fuse, broke their relationship, and how Garnet cannot trust her anymore. This arc is about all of my favorite parts of Steven Universe: characters, relationships, and fusions. And that's why it's my second favorite of all of them. Peridot's redemption, or character arc, or whatever you want to call it, is one of my favorites ever in anything. The way she starts confined by the rigid social pressures and indoctrination from Homeworld, just to go through spending time with, at first Steven, then Pearl, Amethyst, and eventually Garnet, in order for her horizons and understanding of others to expand, is probably my favorite part of the show. The one moment when she walks into the rain for the first time, and the rain on her face make it look like she's crying, it's honestly so powerful. When I watched it the first time, it made me so emotional, and it still does to this day. I can't explain it, I just feel it. It's the same with the moment with Lapis and Steven, where he's trying to explain to her the Earth. The idea of explaining to an alien concepts and aspects of our nature, culture, and day-to-day life is so unfathomable and interesting, and the leaf scene, again, made me emotional, and I can't necessarily even explain it, it just did. And obviously, we have Lapis and Peridot learning to live together, and Lapis eventually saving her. And again, she's the coolest character in the series. And there's so much more going on. Steven's birthday, the Rubies show up, and they're hilarious and adorable, and they play baseball. We see Garnet's backstory finally. Peridot starts understanding Garnet, and the end of Peridot's character arc when she defies Yellow Diamond and becomes a crystal gem, that was insane. It was funny, and it was actually very satisfying because they really teased you. They really made you feel like you spent all this time just for her to betray the gems, and then at the end she still sides with them and joins the team. And there's still the fight with Malachite, which is awesome, and it finally puts an end to a months-long toxic fusion, as well as the cluster, and Steven dealing with it in a sympathetic manner rather than trying to kill it. I love the moment where he could just feel and see through Cluster. It's honestly so insane and impactful, and shows how sympathetic and empathetic Steven is, not only figuratively, but in a literal sense, that it's one of his abilities. Almost everything that happens in this arc is amazing, and I just love it. It's just awesome. I love this. Season 2 and early Season 3 of Steven Universe is probably the best part of the whole show. And that was it. That was every Steven Universe arc ranked from worst to best. Tell me in the comments if you think there's other arcs I didn't acknowledge, or there's something you disagree with